we sent over wasn't even working over to Ukraine. And it's also a very different situation. Having a nuclear Iran is something that President Trump has never wanted. That goes back 15 years, and I support him wholeheartedly in this effort. And I hope that Israel finishes the job.
On Piers Morgan Uncensored, the fight over America's future in Iran explodes. Trump, known for his anti-war stance, now faces pressure to join Israel in a possible war that could reshape the Middle East. Is this a necessary strike or another reckless invasion based on dubious intel? Let's break this down with insiders, veterans, and truth-tellers exposing the stakes.
Okay, Nancy Mace, thank you very much indeed for joining me.
Thank you.
All right, so let's go back to the panel. Scott, I could see that you weren't entirely buying everything that Nancy Mace was saying there.
It's just absurdity on top of absurdity there. The Director of National Intelligence is wrong, and Iran was, in fact, they were too making a nuclear bomb. Why? Because she believes it. And she says, I saw the intelligence. I went to Israel, and they briefed me and told me. Yeah, so she's choosing what the Mossad told her when she went on a trip to a foreign country over what the Director of National Intelligence, who works for her current president that she favors, is reporting on behalf of the consensus of America's intelligence community, that there's actually no shift there whatsoever.
This exposes a dangerous politicization of intelligence, prioritizing foreign briefings over America's comprehensive intelligence consensus risks, pushing the U.S. into an unjustified war.
It's completely ridiculous. I love that. Iraq war opponents for a preemptive, supposed aggressive war, definitely aggressive war against Iran is just completely absurd. And I want to say, all due respect to Rob here, it's an important story, although it's an old one, but he mentioned it, about the 500, it's usually estimated up to 600 Americans who were killed fighting the Shiites in 2007 in Iraq War II. And the reality is, and I have in my book, I cite a solid dozen sources at least of American reporters and international reporters on patrol with American soldiers fighting against Muqtada al-Sadr's forces and in East Baghdad and in Najaf, and they found the EFP factories over and over and over again in Iraq. Those EFPs, the copper core, explosively formed penetrators, improved IEDs, were being made in Iraq by Iraqis. And yes, it's true that it was Muqtada al-Sadr and the Shiites, and they were somewhat supported by Iran. But you notice the way Nancy Mace says any American support to Israel, whatever they do, that's just Israel. But if Iran gives a hand to Muqtada al-Sadr, or if Iran gives a hand to Hamas in any way, then they are just a proxy, and anything they do is all Iran's responsibility. But what was really going on there was, if you zoom out, the entire war of Iraq War II was fought for Muqtada al-Sadr. He's one of the most important kingmakers in that country to this day, and he was part of the United Iraqi Alliance with the Supreme Islamic Council and the Dawa Party, and America fought the whole war for him, except for a couple times when they stopped and fought against him, and including in this giant propaganda campaign in 2007 by Dick Cheney, David Petraeus, and Michael Gordon, especially at the New York Times, pushing this lie about the EFPs because they were trying to justify starting a war with Iran then. And George Bush finally put his foot down and said no. And so, there's a kernel of truth in that, but it's always embellished. And usually, although I don't believe Rob said this directly, but it's usually embellished to the point where it's just Iran killed 600 Americans in Iraq War II, which is just purely false.
Okay. Rob, I want to ask you a slightly wider question, which is something that's been baffling me, which is Mossad clearly have been unbelievably skillful from a technology point of view in the way they dismantled Hezbollah with those pages, but many years in the making. They seem to have been equally successful so far in specifically targeting military commanders, nuclear scientists, nuclear sites, and so on in Tehran, albeit with some civilian casualties too. But it's been very surgically precise from a military perspective. And yet in Gaza, it appears to be the complete opposite. And they've been getting more and more opprobrium from around the world, from former Israeli prime ministers to many of the allies of Israel, traditional allies, because they just seem to be trying to obliterate everything that's in front of them in Gaza. I mean, do you buy the argument that just because Hamas has a policy of putting itself and its terrorists amongst civilian population? That is the only way to defeat them?
Well, I mean, I'm a believer that because of October 7th, Israel knows it needs to wipe Hamas out. I mean, you're not born hating. You're taught to hate. You're taught to be racist. And a lot of these poor kids that are raised around Hamas, all they know is cut the heads off the dirty Jews. That's exactly what they're saying. I mean, it's horrible, the words that they use. I'm upset with myself just for saying that right now, but that's what they're teaching them. And like, my question too is, okay, a two-party state. Here's a serious question. You get Palestine. Who's gonna lead it? Al-Qaeda, ISIS, Islamic Jihad, Hezbollah, Hamas. You're getting more of the same. You need to have real leadership. And again, with the conversations we're having right now, I mean, first of all, I've been to Sadr City. I've been to Najaf. I'm definitely going to read Scott's book because I think it is important.
The harsh indictment of Israel reframes the regional conflict, highlighting the complex layers beyond simplified good versus evil narratives often deployed to justify military action.
You shouldn't be sitting in a room with people that just agree in an echo chamber. I'm very interested now to reading that. If were these EFPs that killed a lot of Americans made in Iraq? Neither here nor there. I mean, if you're trying to tell me that a lot of American kids weren't blown up and killed and maimed and watched their friends blown in half, and now just a ton of traumatic brain injury, and I've seen it. It's there. It's real.
I'm just saying Iran didn't do it. I'm only saying Iran didn't do it. I'm not challenging the deaths and the chaos of that war. It was terrible.
Yeah, it was pretty bad. I saw it. You see it?
From here, and
no,
it was bad
I'll just take your
from
silence
here.
as no, you didn't see it. But I'm just saying it's all based on their religion and the end of their times. There's so much going on. You know what part of the issue too with all these wars? The first Gulf War. Hey, go back to Vietnam. Go back to Korea. The first Gulf War, the second Gulf War. Why did we bomb Bosnia? Then go into obviously we know why we went into Afghanistan, Pakistan, Yemen, Somalia. You know who's been watching us the entire time? China.
Rob, the last clip that I saw of you before today's show was a short clip of you on the Sean Ryan show talking about how you killed this guy in his house because he went for a gun. And then later on, you thought to yourself, what was I doing there? Why did I kill this guy? I wonder if he was funny. I wonder if we could have had a drink. Because and the way you finished the story, because you believe George Bush's lies. He sent you on a fool's errand, to fight for Iran in Iraq War II that whole time. My friend, you should be over it by now. I can't understand how you could be rallying behind the war party. You're the one they betrayed.
I don't want to go to war too. Like I said, after 9/11, I believed anything, and that's what our industrial complex did. I mean, Iraq is so complicated. We never should have invaded. We shouldn't have left how we did. We formed ISIS. But yeah, I mean, that realization of a dude that I shot that I didn't even know because he went for a gun. He went for a gun because I was his worst nightmare in his room at 2 a.m. simply because George Bush didn't like what Saddam Hussein said about his dad. I'm admitting that right now. I mean, I'm not on here as some pro-war guy. I'd love it if it all ended. The conversations need to be had. And we've proven for a long, long time that bombs and bullets aren't exactly working. And it's the same story every single time. They're so close. We got to bomb them. Look at Gaddafi was running Libya. He gave up his nukes. We went in there. We made up the Arab Spring, bombed him, killed him. And all of a sudden there's open slave markets. This war stuff's not really working. I'm not a pro-war guy.
Can I make a point here?
Yeah.
The reason to oppose war is not because it doesn't work. It's because you have no right to do it. You had no right as an illegal aggressor to invade Iraq. That was based on a lie, and the U.S. had no right to bomb it. Just as Israel has no right to bomb Iran, which is not threatening Israel, Israel has no right to occupy the people of Palestine. It only has the obligation to stop occupying them. And on that point, I've been to Gaza. I'm Jewish myself. I was treated very well. I met children. They're not taught to hate. They're just taught to have their eyes open and see what's in front of them.
What rock are you living on?
Israeli occupation that has denied them their basic rights. It has put them in a cage. If you don't want Hamas there, don't put them under one of the most sadistic military occupations in the world, in which Israel controls even what kind of food people can eat, which now has been reduced to Holocaust levels. 20 years ago, that was at the levels where Israel was counting the calories, literally, so that they would give the people of Gaza just enough food so there wouldn't be a full-blown starvation crisis. One Israeli official referred to this as putting them on a diet. That's called sadism, and it's the root cause of all problems in the Middle East. If you don't want wars, if you don't want conflict, the first place to start is with our aggression, our tyranny. And the fundamental tyranny that threatens everybody is Israel's oppression and now mass murder of the Palestinian people.
Okay, I want to play, Emily, I want to play.
Can I ask a question really quickly here? Since other than the Palestinians electing Hamas, Israel's the only democracy in the Middle East. If that goes away like you want it to, where are all the homosexuals and trans going to go? Because that's the only place in the Middle East they're welcome.
Okay, first of all, this notion that Israel is the only democracy in the Middle East, try telling that to the millions of Palestinians in the West Bank and Gaza who have been ruled by Israel for decades now and can't vote for their leaders, can't even move without Israeli permission, who die at checkpoints because Israel denies them medical care, who lack food and water. Right now in Gaza, there's literally a starvation crisis because Israel is controlling everything that comes in with the starvation siege. This notion that Israel is a democracy is a complete lie. Yes, it's a democracy nominally internally for the people that have Israeli citizenship, but not for the millions of Palestinians that it rules over in the West Bank and Gaza. It's not a democracy, it's a tyranny for them.
All right, Emily, I want to play, hang on. I want to play a clip. This is President Trump today talking about Iran. Watch this.
President, what do you say to the Supreme Leader of Iran who says that they will not surrender?
Say good luck.
And what is the end game?
Say it?
I know the patience run out.
It's already run out. That's why we're doing what we're doing.
You can take out.
Yeah, they had 60 days and a big, 60 days, plenty of time. And they made a mistake. Honestly, they made a mistake. Their country's in ruins. So many people are dead that shouldn't be dead. It's a very sad thing.
So, Emily, Donald Trump is about to make possibly the most consequential decision of his life. This is a man who's been persistently anti-war in his rhetoric, wanting to end wars, not start them, proud of the fact in his first term he didn't start any significant war. But here he might be actively engaging in starting an American war, albeit with Israel, against Iran. Do you not feel, after what happened with Iraq, after what happened with Afghanistan, do you not feel this is a massive roll of the dice? And that Tucker Carlson, in his pretty apocalyptic warning, someone who's a pro-Trump guy, voted for Trump, says this could end his presidency.
It's very dramatic and hysterical, if you ask me. Before I answer that question, I just want to point out that Aaron believes America has no right to interject into what's happening in Iran, but Hamas has the right to pull on October 7th and invade Israel because of the false narrative that they're occupied. So now moving on from that, I watched what Trump said this morning. I watched it live, actually. And I feel like the issue here is that everyone's equivocating what's happening in Iran to Iraq and Afghanistan. I'd argue that the people of Iran, the Persian people, are a bit more sophisticated than what Iraq was and what Afghanistan was, a little bit more secular. Half of them are resisting the regime, are calling for a regime change. Do I think it's America's burden to reassure that if they have a new whatever you want to call it, supreme leader, president, hopefully something more democratic? No. However, I do believe that at the very least, if we get rid of their nuclear facilities, the whole world is a better place. Trust me, the entire Middle East will be happy. UAE, Saudi, all the countries that are going more Western will be thanking us for that. And at the very best, within Iran, once it's in ruins, as Trump said, it won't be in ruins, we'll get a B-2 bomb. But once they have the opportunity to, they can overthrow the regime and state what it was pre-79. They don't need to be oppressed by their own anymore. The Iranian people are taking the streets. They're not chanting death to America anymore. They're chanting death to the dictator. So I feel like they're ready for this change. And it's not Iraq and it's not Afghanistan.
I mean, the parallel with Iraq, though, I would say is quite clear in that was fought on what turned out to be an entirely false pretext that Saddam Hussein had weapons of mass destruction. And here there is a belief put out by Prime Minister Netanyahu that Iran is imminently about to create a nuclear bomb, but nobody else outside of Israel.
He said that then, too.
Yeah, but nobody else outside of Israel seems to agree. I mean, Scott, this is the dilemma for Donald Trump, is that there is a part of his support that's dragging him into engaging in this war, but there's another...
Due diligence? Come on, he's not that naive.
Well, the problem is that all those whose specific job it is to do that due diligence are saying that Iran is nowhere near it. And that's what would stop me in my tracks if I was president of the United States, is like, am I going to believe the Israelis, led by Netanyahu, who's been saying this for decades, without actual evidence that it's about to create a bomb or not?
I don't think we know whether or not he was presented with evidence by Netanyahu. I don't think Trump shows all of the reports to every single person in the United States or abroad. I really have a very hard time believing Netanyahu called him, said, hey, bro, trust me, they have a nuclear weapon. And Trump was like, yeah, let's get involved. I think we know it's a little bit more.
That's exactly what happened, given that Trump is ignoring what his own director of national intelligence said, which has been bolstered in recent days by leaks to CNN and the New York Times, in which as Scott mentioned earlier, even the latest intelligence reports say the same thing. And there was no convincing evidence provided by Israel. This is basically the Iraq WMD hoax, wherein Dick Cheney, got the intelligence. He knew there was no Iraq WMD, so he ordered it to be fabricated, including through torture. This is basically the Iraq WMD hoax, except this time Trump isn't bothering to fabricate. He's just outsourcing the job to Israel.
A scathing reminder that history could repeat itself, where unproven intelligence is weaponized to push America into devastating, unnecessary wars.
Okay, Scott. And like I said, this is a hell of a roll of the dice if Trump pulls the trigger on getting involved in this. I mean, I do think it's going to be extraordinarily consequential.
Yeah. Well, and look, he should not get involved at all, and Israel should call it off right now, short of regime change. The idea that, and this reminds me of the funniest thing that Nancy Mace said in that interview was, oh, yeah, well, you know what, we'll just kill the regime, and then the people will rise up, and, they'll just figure it out. It'll be fine. This is exactly what I'll never forget Representative Bob Dornan in 2011 talking about how, yes, we should support al-Qaeda to overthrow the government in Damascus, Syria, because, well, we don't know who's going to replace him, but I'm sure someone will come to the fore, he said. And now who came to the fore? First, the Islamic State bin Ladenite caliphate that was so bad that America had to launch Iraq War III to destroy it again, in alliance with Iran, by the way, providing them direct air cover.
The debate over Iran is more than intelligence or ideology. It's about the consequences of reckless war-making and political agendas. Trump's flirtation with military action risks repeating the catastrophic mistakes of Iraq, as credible voices warn of fabrications and dangerous assumptions. Israel's role, the reliability of intelligence, and America's responsibilities are critically challenged here. This is a moment to demand accountability and transparency before another costly war unfolds. Drop your take below. Should America intervene or pull back?